Oh, let me.
You are listening to The Winningest with Adam Wins. Intelligent information from those that have achieved the highest levels of success to become the winningest in wellness and wealth, bringing you the winningest from around the globe to help you get to the highest levels of winning to become the winningest in everything you do, leading the way to the winningest to get you the winningest levels in your wellness and wealth. Winningest with Adam Wins.
Hey, this is Adam Wins. This is The Winningest. And today on the show, I have a very, very special guest. And that special guest today is Carissa Kranz. And she comes to me via her father, who I've been doing some dealings with. And he was always talking about his amazing, amazing daughter. She was a ballerina and she's a lawyer and she's all these amazing things. And on top of it, she's a vegan. And he told me the story about how he raised her and she chose being a vegan on her own. She's going to tell you about herself and how challenging it was to raise a vegan. And then how proud of her he was that she turned it into a business and is really the highest level at the top level of the vegan business. So Carissa is here. Your company is BevVeg or BevVeg. Mm-hmm. And that's probably half of India or maybe even more on that topic. But you got some great things going on in the wine industry and the food industry. Mm-hmm. And being a lawyer and being on top of it, you're really, let's say, you have the ability to have transparency that I think a lot of other people don't. So first of all, let's get to your story, Carissa. What is it that first got you started being a vegan? How did you start out there?
Well, my mom raised me vegan. So okay. So I was born into the entire lifestyle. Okay. When, now vegan's a popular thing. It's a trend. It's the #1 Google search term in all vegan cities. It's in the subway systems of New York. But back when I was born in preschool, elementary school, middle school, even high school, it was a foreign concept. So I was born into it, which was a little bit odd back then. Right. And then my parents did split when I was about 5 years old. And I had a choice then on which way I wanted to go, because I was half the week with my mom and half the week with my dad, and my mom was the vegan and my dad was more normal in society. Although now there is no such thing as normal, and I think the world is transitioning to a more plant-based lifestyle. But back then, even the food pyramid was you had to have your meat and your dairy, which today the food pyramid has been changed since when I was in preschool and everyone was worried about me. So I just made a moral and ethical decision at about 5 years, learned what meat was and what animal, that it came from an animal, and I made the connection. So I was born into it, but at 5, I'm very stubborn. I'm very set in my ways, and if my mind's made up about something, ask my dad, God help you. So I went to my dad half the week. He tried to feed me my protein, and I protested on my plate. I was not going to have anything to do with the meat. So it was something that, yes, I was born into, but it was very much internally a conscious decision of mine as soon as I was aware of the choice. Most people aren't aware of the choice. Most people aren't given the choice. It's so part of our culture and our society to eat meat and have it on our plate that we don't really make the connection of how it got there. And it's so deeply ingrained in us. But I was given that option, and I feel very privileged to have had that option because I got to make a decision that a lot of people aren't even aware that there is a decision.
Yeah, most people don't even know it's a choice because they're just given it from the time they're born to the time they go through. I mean, with even with the formulas, right? I mean, those are not
not vegan.
Not vegan for sure. And
now they have that available, but yes, not back then.
Right. And I'm sure then when we get into that, which something that your father pointed out to me, which I didn't know, is that there's a lot of, I mean, even on the organic side, right? So I try to eat healthy. You know, I've lost a bunch of weight. My goal is to be, you know, the whole show is about being the winniest. My goal is to be the best me I can be. So I make conscious choices to buy organic, to buy, you know, to not eat dairy products and do things that are in alignment with what I want to do, and consistently, right? So consistency, obviously, with you being a vegan, you've been consistently a vegan your whole life, and it's your passion. I get that. But there's also a little disparity, or let's say, there always isn't truth in the vegan and organic products that I find. There's been a lot of, let's say, mislabeling in the marketplace.
Right.
So
sure, problem.
From my understanding is this is something that you've come up with a solution. So back to putting your lawyer hat on, you know, I believe you've probably seen this too, where, you know, you get something that's organic and then it's like organic labeled from China. I think, you know, Whole Foods had that problem from a while. There's all sorts of places that are skeptical on the organic, and how do you prove that it's really organic, you know, or how do you prove that something is really vegan, right? So how did you come to that conclusion that it wasn't really that you could make a difference and do something about this?
So it's all good questions. So a lot of products are labeled vegan, and consumers are buying that thinking that it is vegan. But the reality is vegan is not defined at all legally, globally, anywhere. And anyone can claim vegan, but the question is what does that mean and by what standard? Because no one is holding those vegan claims accountable, and they're not made with integrity. At BevVeg International, which is our global vegan certification firm, which is managed by my law firm, and we have the only law firm issued vegan symbol and trademark in the world, we try to bring vegan claims credibility and accountability so we can lend true truth and transparency in truth and labeling laws. And our goal is to bring in a logo for the consumer so they're not bogged down trying to read and decipher tiny ingredients that are misleading, because the ingredients don't say where they actually came from. They don't say who the supplier is. There's zero verification. And the government, all world governments protect products and ingredients under trade secret laws. So you really don't know what's in any product or what you're eating or drinking or consuming as makeup or what you wish your lifestyle to be. And if it's a plant-based vegan lifestyle, that means without exploitation of animals. And you really have zero verification of that. And anyone can claim that they're vegan. And the truth is they're probably not vegan by a vegan standard because they haven't been vetted and nobody's actually holding them accountable or doing the research. So if they see a vegan trademark, like the BevVeg global symbol, then the consumer should trust that that product disclosed their trade secrets in the spirit of transparency to us as a law firm, which we protect their trade secrets because there's an attorney-client privilege. Nice. So they disclose their secrets to us. We do not expose them, but we go through those secrets. We go through the paperwork. We travel down the supply chain. We confirm that everything is vegan in the supply chain. And if it is, and it's credible, and they are in alignment with our set out, legally defined vegan standard, which has been set out by lawyers, then we license use of our vegan symbol to them. Nice. Yeah, so we try really hard to bring credibility to the entire process, because vegan claims is like the Wild West.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything if they say they're vegan. Yeah. And organic, by the way, is a little bit better because now there are USDA guidelines and there's organic guidelines, but I would say vegan is now what organic was 10 years ago.
Okay, nice.
And even now, there's fraud in organic claims, like you said, and there's fraud in vegan claims. I cannot tell you how many companies apply to us for vegan certification that either don't pass because of a source ingredient like sugar, for example, which could have natural charcoal, and natural charcoal means bone char. So
wow.
People think, oh, it's a vegan product, but no, there's a bone char in it. So in those cases, one, we either deny them certification, or we counsel to change their sugar supplier to get a different supplier, which will make their product vegan, so then they can pass and have the label for the product using the new sugar ingredient going forward. And this makes a difference because it affects the supply chain. So when a big account of a product loses, let's say, changes a sugar supplier, then that sugar supplier lost possibly a big account and a big income stream that they were counting on. So then that makes the sugar supplier think, do we want to change our practices to not exploit animals? Do we want to be vegan too? And I think it makes a difference. You know, I'm an advocate for a plant-based world, right? So my goal is to have a domino effect and to affect change. Nice. So for us, it really does, it helps make a difference because the supply chains are changing as they conform to be in compliance with our vegan standards. Yeah.
Right. Nice. So I'm not a full-fledged vegan. I'll lay that out right here, but I do respect you for adhering to your principles and adhering to your beliefs. That is amazing. And what you're doing with the whole project is really to the next level and making other people abide by rules and standards. So part of this show is about intelligent information. So part of being vegan is like, I don't eat any animal-based products, but everybody drinks wine. And tell us about everything, or let's say the greatest misconception of wine on the planet, right? So many people drink it, and is it vegan or is it not vegan? Because it's just grapes, right?
Yeah, no. So you kind of asked earlier, how did I get my start maybe on the business side of things? I've been vegan from birth, right? Yep. But it wasn't until I learned that wine, which I've been drinking, with dinners for a long time, that wine be filtered through animal parts like gelatin, cow's elbows and knees and horse hooves, crustacean shells, which is the bones of fish, isinglass, which is fish bladder, egg whites. And the more research I did, the more I learned that the Tobacco and Trade Bureau, which regulates alcohol in the United States and every other alcohol around the world, has zero nutritional information and zero ingredient disclosures. Some wines might say vegan, but again, not verified without our vegan symbol or a vegan trademark. I can't say ones are doing, but I know if they apply to us, they have been verified. And when I learned that, I was crushed. I was like, oh my God, this is disgusting. Like, I'm drinking wine and I don't even know what's in it. I thought it was grapes and sulfites, but no. There are up to, I think, 62 ingredients, according to the Tobacco and Trade Bureau, that could go into your beverage. Wine, beer, liqueur, anything. You don't know what's in your drink. And that was really jarring for me. I mean, we live in an age of information. We're able to Google anything and know it. And we all want to have wine or beer or a nice nightcap or a drink. It's part of our society, and we're not really thinking how that was made. And you would be surprised at how many wineries have no idea if they're vegan or not, because the entire recipe of how to make the beverage is in the hands of the winemaker. And that can change at any moment, at any time. And there's no real documentation of any of this. This is like the Wild West, okay, the beverage alcohol industry. So BevVeg has two programs. We have the BevVeg Vegan Certification Program, which is one trademark for all products. And then under that, we have the BevVeg program, which is a double V for beverages. And that's a wine glass trademark symbol. And I developed these programs as I learned information and started doing research. So once I got the wine part under my belt and I learned, geez, this wine I'm drinking might not be vegan, and I started Googling, and took me hours in the stores to find a wine that was suitable to drink. I remember I was evacuating a hurricane, and I was in the store with my mom and my cousin Googling on the aisles to find a vegan wine. And my mom was like, Carissa, we've got to hit the roads. A hurricane's coming. We've got to go. There must be an easier way to do this. And I was like, well, there's not an easier way to do this. There's no information oh, so like the first vegan wine I claimed, which who knows, I bought like 10 bottles and I stocked up for the hurricane. And then during the hurricane, I was drinking this vegan wine and talking about it with my family. And then that's when the whole concept came to me, and I started Googling about other products. And I started learning that the USDA and the FDA has really deficient legal labeling requirements when it comes to vegan. For example, they have insignificant ingredients is considered an ingredient that has less than 0.5 grams of something per serving. So what does that mean? It means that if there's 0.45 grams of sugar per serving or 0.4 grams of alcohol per serving, the company can round down and claim sugar-free or alcohol-free or gluten-free or whatever free. So I realized that that's one problem.
Yeah.
And the government considers it insignificant, doesn't need to be disclosed. But 0.5 grams of something per serving really adds up.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the first problem. And then I did more research and I learned about incidental ingredients. I'm like, well, what's incidental ingredients? I just learned about insignificant ingredients. Well, incidental ingredients are ingredients that could end up in the final product of something based on the manufacturing process. So basically there could be trace amounts that could have spilled over based on the, maybe it's a shared facility, maybe there's a source ingredient that had a little bit of a spillover in the final product. All of these incidental ingredients may have fallen into the product, but really isn't part of the ingredients or part of the product. It just might be incident to, also don't have to be disclosed.
Wow.
So I started gaining more and more information, and then I learned about how the concentration of ingredients doesn't have to be listed in order like you think it does, and there's just so much out there that doesn't really protect the consumer.
Exactly.
And as a vegan and an ethical vegan, there are health vegans and then there are the ethical vegans, and then so everyone's different. But as an ethical vegan, I was bothered. I was bothered by this. And I think anyone should be bothered by this, whether they're vegan or not, because we're all label conscious. Mm-hmm. And I think every consumer at the store is picking up products and reading ingredients on the back, trying to know if it's healthy or not and plant-based. And consumers will tell you, I think the statistics are like 80% of consumers, all things equal, if they have one product that says, vegan plant-based and one that doesn't make that claim, they will pick the vegan product, whether they're vegan or not, because we are leaning towards that as a society and as a culture, that direction. So I basically learned all of this, and that's how I got the business started, but it did start wine. I was having a glass of wine, learning that wine might not be vegan, and our research.
Who would have thought that? Because honestly, I've asked people who pretend to be very experienced in wine, and they're wine wholesalers or whatnot, and I said, is that wine vegan? Because your father told me about the what you were doing, and they said, yeah, all wine is vegan. And these are supposed experts in wine. They're also undereducated in what really goes into the process. And I think all of us at home, I mean, it's similar to, like, let's say cigarettes. Most people, when they're addicted to cigarettes, they're really addicted to the sugar involved, because there's about 30% sugar in every cigarette. Yet nobody knows that there's sugar in cigarettes because it's not wildly publicized. It's not a food-based product, so they don't have to put in the ingredients of cigarettes. Yet the most addictive chemical on the planet, sugar, they put into it, which I think is unfair to the end consumer. You should at least know why you're getting diabetes, and it's because you're smoking it as opposed to drinking it or doing something else. And we all have a right to our health, whatever we want that to be, whether you're a vegan, a vegetarian, whether you just don't eat fish, whatever your personal belief is. I have to respect that we all have the right to have the truth and good facts with that. So what you're doing is absolutely amazing for all aspects of society, because I think it's really going to help us advance as a people, advance as a culture, and put us to the next level of how it's supposed to be. I mean, it's kind of, I have to say, I'm glad you're doing this, but you shouldn't have to do this, right? It should already be like something that is, you know, what's the government protecting us from, right? They're supposed to be doing this as their job, not giving it as a business to you. Thankfully, it is something you took upon because they're not doing their job right. So,
yeah, but eventually it's probably going to turn into, like, organic now has USDA requirements. Eventually there will be legislation and things that are at least endorsing and backing and holding companies accountable to a standard we set out. And it'd be great if the government got involved in subsidizing products in completion of the transparency and in the audits that would be necessary to actually prove up a vegan claim. I mean, the government subsidizes all, you know, animal agriculture, which is kind of annoying. They're doing all these bailouts right now for milk and dairy and meat because the market's suffering from the coronavirus.
Right.
So our taxpayer dollars are bailing out the culprit of basically the entire virus, since it started in a wet market, which is a local slaughterhouse. And now the largest outbreaks in the United States are in slaughterhouses. Those are the biggest hotbeds. And here we are, right? Bailing them out.
Yeah, they're closing all the
they're closing them. But see, that's what bothers me. Okay, right. They're closing, like, I think a dozen, across a dozen states or something.
Closed. Tyson is closed. Tyson,
JBS, Smithfield. Yeah. But, okay, so one thing on JBS I just want to say that's really nice and awesome is they are launching a plant-based vegan meat line. Meatballs, burgers, everything. And we just certified them vegan about a week ago. So I think it's wonderful that the largest meat giant that's responsible for killing and murdering trillions of animals for food is making the transition into a plant-based product to see the wins there and to be part of the movement. Because so long as they're part of the movement, they're not going to resist it. And unfortunately, meat and dairy are the biggest advertisers and the biggest lobbyists, and they have billions and billions and billions of dollars behind them, that it's very hard to change what's happening in animal agriculture and in our society and in our health system, because it's driven by dollars, like follow the money. So all of these processing plants, which I have to say, the lingo bothers me. I mean, call it what it is. It's not a processing plant or a food packing plant. They're slaughterhouses. That's what that is. That is code word to distance us as humans to accept that this is just food and our food supply shortage is at risk, which it's not at risk at all. That is, you know, meat and dairy putting pressure and fear into us to go to the stores to clear the grocery shelves of all the, you know, meat and dairy products because we fear a food shortage. There is no food shortage, and it's not a meat packing plant, and it's not a pork processing plant. These are slaughterhouses, just like the wet market in China. The only difference is the kind of animal that's being slaughtered.
Right.
So I think that it would be nice if there's truth in labeling laws and truth and transparency in what you're consuming, and that we start using the right lingo of what things really are. You know, I mean, most of the people would not be participating in this process if they understood it.
Yes. Yes. So I'm very grateful for what you're doing. And is there, let's say, so with your legal hat on, are you doing something to, let's say, this truth in labeling, because there's a lot of untruth in labeling? How are you going after that and making sure that people are not claiming to be vegan when they're not, and people are saying, you know, these different things? What are you doing there on the legal side? Tell me about that.
So first of all, as a lawyer, you have two choices, right? You can work within the current confines of the law, and that's it. Or you can take the law and try to expand it and expand rights and pioneer your own path as a lawyer to create laws that are in alignment with the current existing laws. That's what we're doing at BevVeg, and that's what I'm doing. We have laws, but our laws are constantly changing. That's why we have the legislature. That's why we have the court system. That's why we have the executive branch for all these checks and balances. That's why legislation is always being proposed. That's why litigation is always happening. So vegan law is an area of law that is not at all defined. So besides doing the actual vegan labeling and vetting and the research and making it a legal process with documents and contracts and affidavits and inspections, I'm also doing things on a higher level, like proposing legislation for vegan labeling law. Like, I have a book coming out that's being published by vegan publishers, a publishing house called Vegan Law, Know Your Rights. And it breaks down all sorts of different laws. Vegan labeling law is one chapter. There are so many laws that need to be discussed so vegans can understand their potential legal rights if they're in a certain situation, and that lawyers that are working within the current laws can look to these laws and look to these scenarios and say, you know what, this is a case that I want to take, because if I take this case, I have the possibility of traveling up to the Supreme Court on this case to actually get a law made based on this situation. Nice. So what does that mean? Here is an example. If someone goes to Burger King and they order the Impossible Burger and they're vegan for moral and ethical reasons and they are served a hamburger, the law as it says right now is, okay, too bad, you can't recover, you have no rights.
Right.
But if you are a religious vegetarian like Hindu and you are served a cow, a burger, and that is against your religion, then you have economic, emotional distress damages that you can go after that are recognized under the law, because under the Civil Rights Act, which has been expanded many times, includes race, religion, gender, disability, now marriage equality. Where are vegans in this, right? Certain countries are starting to recognize veganism as a constitutional class. In the United States, it's not, but it should be, and it will be one day. I believe this, because it's going to fall under a non-religious moral class. So it should be recognized like a religious class would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not an organized religion, but it will be a constitutional class. But it's going to take the right cases and the right case law to make the law to do that. Just like it took for the Civil Rights Act to expand into gender, disability, and marriage equality when it was initially just written for race.
Yeah.
So all these things expand. So as a lawyer, I am taking my legal background and my passion, and I am putting it towards a profession where I think I can really define areas of law and help make law that I care about.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing, and I'm very grateful to you for doing that. And I also believe that, you know, veganism, it's a belief system, so it is very much in alignment with religion. It's something that you have a faith in. That's what you you practice it religiously, right? So, I mean,
and I was born a vegan and I was born a Jew, right? I am much more aligned with veganism and spirituality than I am with
Judaism. Yeah.
Judaism is a nice tradition. It's a nice for the holidays, whatever. If you ask me where my moral grain is, it's veganism. And I don't think that's any different from someone who says, hey, I'm gay, I want to marry who I want to marry. They're going to say, you know what, that's their moral grain. They were born that way, according to them. Or if they weren't, if they think that they have a choice, they want to exercise that choice. And they should do so. You know, we have freedom of religion. We should have freedom of choice. You know, so it will happen.
And especially when it deals with our health, because even going back to religion, okay, so I believe that religion, all religion is based primarily on God, unless it's the opposite of that. But we're all born healthy and we're all born wealthy. So health and wealth are the two things that are the most religious things to us. And when it has to do with your eating habits, that's generally the number one component in health. So whether you do it for a health reason or a moral reason, whatever it may be, it has to be more protected and it has to be more transparent. So it's amazing work that you're doing. And I thank you to the highest level that you're really not only making a difference, you're pioneering an entire industry, and you're making something that was invisible visible, which is I love anytime you go from being in the darkness and being into the light, and you're casting a great light on, whether someone wants to be vegan or not. You're right. They may choose to have that product without animal products in it because it doesn't make sense even. So logically, wine doesn't make sense to have animal products in it. So if I had a choice when I'm getting crushed grapes, I'm going to choose the one that's vegan because logically it doesn't make sense to me to have animals in my wine.
And I just want to add to that, because some people say, will it affect the flavor of the wine? A fine wine, we want the fine wine. And if you ask a winemaker or anyone in the wine industry that knows about the quality of wines, the quality of wine is determined by the quality of the grape. So whatever is going into the winemaking process that could compromise the quality of the grape compromises the quality of the wine. So arguably, a vegan wine is a more pure, better wine than one that may have been filtered through animal parts or have those added ingredients, because those added ingredients are diluting the quality of the grapes.
Nice. So tell me, we're going to wrap up here in a minute, and I just want to, if somebody has a wine, a vodka, some food products, how do they get in touch with you? How does somebody do business with you? Let's say they're just a consumer. Where does everybody find you? How do they get into business with you? And let's say they also are passionate like you are. How do they get involved? Because this is more than just a label. It's a movement. How do they get involved with your movement?
Yeah. So if you're a consumer and you want to know if you have a vegan wine, we have a free app. And it's called BevVeg, BEVVEG. You can get it on our website at beveg.com. But the app is a double V for beverage, BevVeg. And there we have over 1 million beverages cataloged. Some have vegan claims, some are vegan certified, some are not vegan, and some say no info. We are asking people who, if they see something with no info, to not get upset, but to help us get the info. The app is becoming interactive now, where you can interact with the company. We've added email addresses. You can help us update the database. We want to have the most, comprehensive information database for the consumer. So there's the BevVeg app. If you want to go during a hurricane like me and you want to have answers quicker, this app will help you. Nice. The consumers can also help by just helping us raise the demand by asking winemakers, are you vegan? Are you vegan? Because that lets them know that people care and that this is something that they should invest in.
Quick question on the Bev, BEVVEG, which is the beverage, vegan beverage. Is that only for alcoholics, or is there? So let's say for my kids and their apple juice, I assume that there's probably some other type of strange process that I didn't know about as well that they may filter with. Is there that product as well for those of us who don't drink alcohol? Because I don't drink, but I'm very curious for my kids because I always buy them the organic stuff. But then if it's made with, different things that I don't want them having, I want to know about it. So
so in that case, I would look for a label and I would ask for it. We don't have an app for regular apple juice and orange juice, which, by the way, many times might not be vegan as well. Doesn't mean that in the future we wouldn't have something like that, but I think we need more companies involved. Like we need Nestle and Kraft and companies to really want to disclose information about their suppliers, and that is going to come with consumer demand.
Nice. So
consumers can help.
Consumers, we can do. Do we write to Nestle? Do we email them? What do we do? Saying we want to know
the BevVeg logo. Are you BevVeg vegan certified?
Nice.
And let's see, and let them reach out to us and work with us and be honest and transparent and disclose their trade secrets, so we can verify it for the consumer.
How about
necessary.
chocolate? Is chocolate vegan?
Not always,
Really?
especially milk chocolate. Okay. Right. There could be added sugar. There could be dairy. Yeah, no. It could be. It might be, but it might not be.
But it wouldn't be labeled, probably.
No. And if it says vegan, you can't believe it. I hate to say it. I can't tell you how many products we've turned down that, by the way, still claim vegan on their packaging, despite the fact that they failed certification. Because why? The law is not requiring them to take that off, because the law is not regulating it. The law allows companies to lie about vegan claims because there is no vegan standard. So if you see a vegan certification mark, like the BevVeg vegan certification trademark, you know that we have a vegan standard that we set out, that was written by lawyers and that are inspected by lawyers, and that claim has credibility with it that other vegan claims don't. It's been vetted, it's been audited, it's been watched. Nice. And that's what you have to trust. You can't trust people who have no accountability, no legal accountability either, for a claim that may or may not be true. And then true by what standard? They didn't write what vegan means to them on their website. What does it mean? Does it mean that the main ingredient is vegan, but then the insignificant and incidental ingredients are not, and therefore require them to disclose the insignificant and the incidental ingredients, so therefore they can claim that they're vegan when they're not vegan by a vegan standard? I mean, there are major defaults and deficiencies in the laws as it is today.
Nice. Yeah. So you're making that all clear, which is great. Again, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Now, from the consumer side, let's say I am Nestle, or I have like this vodka brand or whatever it may be, this wine brand. How do we get in touch with you? Is it the same way? And what is the process? So, how do we get in touch with you? And B, are you doing DNA tests on my products? How does that work?
Mm-hmm. Well, they can get in touch with us through our website at beveg.com. There's our contact information there. They can email us directly. They can fill out a contact form, and they can also start the application right there to get more information. The process as it is today is mostly a paperwork process of collecting of information of trade secrets and suppliers, and getting spec sheets and affidavits and paperwork signed with they have to agree to inspections and audits as necessary by us. Nice. However, this is changing and will change into mandatory inspections. It's just a matter of time. It's a process, and we're working on that process. We are working with some big global auditing firms to develop a process that can bring true credibility to the process, and that might include not only on-site inspections, but testing of products to determine that there's no animal proteins. So that would go beyond the paperwork. And all of that will evolve as we evolve, as consumers evolve and demand the information, because the reality is the suppliers and the producers, they care about the bottom line to them, which is money and demand. And if they're not going to want to invest the money in a vegan label, even though it's not much money at all, what would probably cost more money is the audits and the inspections. So the consumer needs to let the suppliers know that they care about this, and then the supplier will then want to spend the money to invest in the inspections, just like they now are required to do for organic or kosher.
Right.
That has evolved, though. That evolves with legislation, that evolves with the laws, that evolves in time, and that evolves with consumer demand. So we're on the forefront of all of that, though.
What is that consumer demand? So what is the, let's say, globally? I mean, I know it's huge in India, for example. Like if you're trying to sell your products in India, the veg is like giant. How big has it grown in the United States, and how is it growing globally per year? Is it a big growth rate?
Huge. I think veganism is increasing. I think like 2 years ago, it was 1,500% a year. I think this last year they said it was 3,000% it's increased a year. The movement is happening. Yes. It just isn't happening fast enough.
Yeah.
That our planet, I mean, we haven't talked about the environmental implications at all. We've talked about the moral and the ethical and the health. But I don't think our planet can sustain the meat industry as a business the way we've been doing the last, we can't continue. We're too destructive right now. We're ruining our planet. We're clearing our rainforests. we are feeding all of our water and all of our grain to the animals to feed them, to slaughter them, to create like a quarter pound of beef, which that quarter pound of beef took gallons and gallons and gallons of water and thousands of pounds of grain for that one cow. And really, if we weren't doing all of that in animal agriculture, we'd be having that water, we'd be having that food, we've been having that grain to get rid of world hunger.
Exactly.
So I think that there's so much we need to do, and the world is going to have to get there. Either it's going to be forced there by Mother Nature, which some people are saying this whole coronavirus crisis is Mother Nature doing an intervention. And the question is will we listen? I don't know if we'll listen, but I think we really should listen. This came out of a wet market, which is a slaughterhouse. The biggest hot spots in America and in Canada are the slaughterhouses, which they're calling food processing plants and meat packing plants. Those are slaughterhouses. That is where mad cow's disease is coming from. Swine flu, which they just break of. Avian flu. Swine flu is from the pigs. Avian flu is from the birds. Avian flu has 3 outbreaks during the coronavirus in Europe, the Philippines, India. I mean, Mother Nature is speaking.
The writing's on the wall.
Loud and clear.
Sure. Yes.
So what is man's humanity to nature? And what are we going to do about it? Because in the end, we're not just killing the planet and we're not just killing the animals, we're killing ourselves too. It's all connected.
Well, on that note, Carissa, thank you so much. This was beautiful. And everybody that wants to get involved, get their products certified, find out more about the certification and get the app, you go to BEVEG.com. That's www.BEVEG.com. This is Adam Wins. This is The Winningest. And thank you so much, Carissa.
Thank you.